Hello and welcome back, everybody. Happy New Year. Here at PTA Plus, we are looking forward to many, many fresh new opportunities. But for you today, what if your career didn't stop at the clinic door? Today's guest has built a career that blends elite sports, performance, leadership, ethics, education, and advocacy, all while staying rooted in patient care. She's proof that curiosity serves and saying yes can open doors that you didn't even know existed. From working with professional runners to shaping licensure, continuing education, and the future of our profession, she's redefining what's possible for PTAs who are willing to step forward. This is Sara Conrad. Welcome to the show, Sara.
Hi, Katie. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm just going to kind of start the episode out by letting everybody know, yes, I know my voice sounds horrible. I have caught whatever it is. I am doing everything I can to get my voice back completely. But until then, I'm going to try to stay a little more quiet and just let Sara run the show. Like you can just take it and run with it. How's that sound?
That sounds great.
Great. Sara, will you tell us a little bit about where you're working now?
I work at Twin Cities Orthopedics. It's a pretty large outpatient orthopedic company in Minnesota. So we see everyone from young kids to 99-year-old people that need help getting back to whatever it is that they love to do.
Yeah, definitely. Now you've had a non-linear, I like this term, non-linear. We're saying this a lot in the profession now. So anybody who is unfamiliar with that, this is our non-traditional pathway to becoming a PTA. Okay. So you've had a non-linear pathway to becoming a PTA. You were doing some coaching. You worked in logistics. You had some nursing prerequisites, if I'm not wrong.
Yep.
So how did all of this shape who you are as a PTA today?
Well, when I was a kid, I really liked writing. So that kind of led me to the career path that I started with. I really liked reading newspapers, reading books, that sort of thing. So for a really long time, I kind of thought that I wanted to write for a newspaper. So that's the path I ended up taking. And I graduated from St. Thomas with a degree in public relations and print media. So I followed that
Wow.
pretty true to course. But I also grew up as an athlete. So I had a lot of injuries when I was a kid. I had a pretty big surgery when I was 12. And I spent a lot of time in physical therapy myself. So I was pretty familiar with it from a patient standpoint, but never really thought about it as a career for most of my life, actually. And I also did a lot of coaching as well. So I coached cross country running for high school in St. Paul, and I did Division III Nordic skiing at McAllister College in St. Paul. And at that time, I was finishing my degree at St. Thomas. I was working at a grocery store and just trying to make ends meet, essentially, to kind of get through everything. And especially when I started coaching high school, I found that a lot of kids are getting injured in high school for whatever reason. And I found myself wanting to help them out, but I really couldn't. I'm like, okay, well, why don't you just go to the athletic trainer, see what they tell you to do, go biking instead of running, and we'll kind of figure it out as we need to figure it out. And so I made kind of a shift after I had graduated from college. I did some public relation-esque things. I didn't like it as much as I thought I would, but was pretty good at it, so I just kept going with it. Yes, I did work in trucking logistics for a while. And then I decided that I wanted to go back to school just because I wanted to help people, but I didn't know what that looked like at that point. So I actually did start with nursing. I worked at Regions Hospital for 10 years as a nursing assistant. I worked at Gillette Children's in their orthopedic and physical therapy units, orthopedic and neuro units as a nursing assistant as well. And between those things, that's when I started realizing that maybe nursing isn't the path that I want to take, and maybe I should look into physical therapy. So it took me a while to get there, but I do
Mhm.
feel that all of the experience that I've had in my life has helped shape me as an individual and has also helped me just be a better clinician in general. So having good communication skills, good writing skills, being able to have really good time management and those sorts of things from my previous career and jobs, I think really helped shape me as an individual, and then just helps me at where I am right now. So I started looking at doctorate programs first because I actually didn't know that PTA was a thing. I started looking at the cost of doctorate programs, which scared the heck out of me because they're pretty expensive and they
And this
continue to.
wasn't, like, recent, like, this was I don't know how long ago would that have
Yeah,
been?
this would have been like 2008. So
Mhm,
so yeah, and they do keep getting more and more expensive. So access is becoming more limited for students as well.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
and so when I was researching doctorate programs, I came across physical therapist assistant programs, and I was like, oh, well, this is kind of up the alley of what I want to do. And so I started looking at that, and I was like, oh, the cost is so much more affordable, and I'm going to do what I want to do. So at the time, St. Kate's was a program, had a program, still does, and then Anoka Ramsey. That was it in Minnesota. Um,
Wow, big choices, huh?
right. And I wanted to stay in state because I love Minnesota. I love being near my family and so forth. So so I went to St. Kate's for PTA school and graduated in 2010.
So, I'm gonna interrupt you just for a second, though, because
Yeah.
St. Kate's is kind of like they're, like, kind of a big deal, right?
Yeah,
Like, weren't they were, like, one of the first PTA programs ever, weren't they?
I
Or am
believe
I
so.
saying that wrong? I think they were within the first 3, I think, that started.
Yeah, I'd have to double check. I'm not quite
Okay,
sure though.
so somebody might have to fact check me on that one, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that they were in the one of the first PTA programs that started, but we'll find out. We know
Yeah,
people. We can
we
ask.
do.
We do. We know common people.
I could probably email one right now.
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt your
Oh,
conversation there about finding your PTA program and then choosing St. Kate's, but, like, so, since you didn't know what being a PTA was, at least not at first, like, what was it that clicked for you and that made you decide that that's what you wanted to do?
I think it was just a combination of growing up as an athlete, um, kind of wanting to work in healthcare at that point, and really how can I help other runners, because I am a runner. How can I help them stay injury free or help them get back as fast and safely as they can? So more from an athletic standpoint was where I became interested. And then just being a patient myself many times before they
That makes a
had,
big difference.
yeah, before they had electronic medical records, here's my file of paper, right? Uh, it had to go to every clinic because I had a lot of injuries, not always
Wow.
athletic related, but I had a lot of injuries growing up.
Mhm.
So I did a lot of physical therapy.
Sounds like you lived a fun youth.
Oh, I did.
Yeah. Sounds like you were good at it.
Yeah, my mom would probably say so.
Mhm. So, not only, after you did all of these, things and you chose this career and whatnot, but you still take time out of your busy schedule, and you do have a busy schedule. You're involved in a lot, but you still take time to talk to students about
Mhm.
physical therapist assistant. So tell me a little bit about that. What kind of students do you talk to, and what are the topics that you usually talk to them about?
So most years, St. Kate's invites me into their second year program to talk about um, how I got involved as a PTA, where I practice, what I do for the organization, and then the things that I do outside of clinic as a PTA to help our profession essentially, because there are
Mhm.
so many ways that you can be involved to grow what we have. So that's
Yeah.
mostly what I talk to students about. From the standpoint of the Minnesota Board of Physical Therapy, we
Mm.
do have staff members that go to the PT and PTA programs to teach them about the board, teach them about the licensing process, and kind of help that be a little bit more streamlined for them when they're getting ready to go through that.
That's great that they offer that kind of support.
Mhm.
Um, so do you have a PTA that's serving on your licensure board?
Myself,
Do you
yeah.
have multiple PTAs that are serving on the board?
We have 2 PTAs right now.
And is this a newer thing or is this something that Minnesota has always had?
Since I've been a part of it, Minnesota has always had. Not every
Mm.
state has a PTA representative, and we're fortunate that we have 2.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say
Mhm.
because there's a lot of licensing boards that don't. In Ohio, just recently in the last 2, 3 years, just finally put a PTA on the licensure board, which just always seems so odd to me because we have licensed probably thousands and thousands of PTAs, so
Right,
like it was always weird to me that there was never a PTA on the board. Now, on the licensure board, I guess I should make a distinction there, a clear distinction, but between your association board versus your licensure board, 2 different
right.
things.
Because
Yeah.
you have the Board of Physical Therapy. So our purpose is to protect the public, right?
Mhm.
So we're doing licensing, we're doing, disciplinary, we're doing education, those sorts of things. And then you have the American Physical Therapy Association, and they're the ones that are going to push forth like changes in legislation, and be more of a resource for the clinicians.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, very different, roles, but they kind of coexist, right? Like,
Right.
we need
And some
both of
people
them.
think that we're the same thing. A
It
lot of
happens
people
a
think
lot.
that,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
But we
Yeah, that
we
happens.
work together as well.
Mhm.
Because if we want something to change in legislation, we can have a meeting about that. But the board members, we're not the ones that go sit on the floor. That's the president of the APTA, or the Minnesota APTA, that goes and represents us.
Yeah, yeah. So it is obviously very important to you to take the time out of your day to do these kind of things. So why is it that you feel that it's necessary to give back in these various ways? What is it that drives you to continue to do that?
I think a few different things. So I graduated in 2010, and at least in the state of Minnesota, PTAs, for example, well, I think it was APT actually, PTAs had half of a vote for any sort of like caucus or vote within the APTA. So I was, I said, well, does that mean I'm half of a person? Like we have a
I love this
license,
conversation.
we're we're practicing, um, and then I thought about, what other limitations do we have under our licensure that maybe could change, and those 2 things alone, I wanted to be more involved. I wanted to stand up for our profession. We have a lot of really great PTAs, really great clinicians that work in the state of Minnesota, and I want to, represent us well. So, in order to start something like that, you need to have basically regulatory experience, which I had 0 at that time. And I really didn't know much about the Minnesota board. I didn't know much
Mhm.
about the APTA at that time. I did not know that the FSBPT, the Federal State Boards of Physical Therapy, I didn't even know they existed. And now I work for both of them.
Yeah. Look at
Um,
that.
right. So I started at the state level to get involved that way. And I joined the Minnesota board, or I was appointed. We're appointed by the governor in Minnesota. So I was appointed to the board in 2020. Well, what happened in 2020? Everything was shut down. So I didn't meet anyone in my board in person actually until I
Wow.
presented at the spring Minnesota APTA conference
Mm-hmm.
in, I think it was 2022, with the president of our board. And we met for the first time that day. We're like, hey, we're going to present together.
Yeah.
um,
After 2 years of work, huh?
yeah, right. Everything was done online like everything else. But that summer, as a new board member, my board wanted to send me to what's called the Life Conference, which is the Leadership Issues Forum conference that's put on by Federal State Boards of Physical Therapy, FSBPT. And so I went to this thing online with zero expectations. I didn't really know my role at that point as a board member, honestly. And here I am going to represent the state of Minnesota, but bring to them like, hey, these are questions that our state has. This is the support that we need in the state of Minnesota from the FSBPT and so forth. And I was so impressed with everyone that I met, how engaging the conversations were, and how excited people were about change. Making sure that we have best practice, making sure that all of our clinicians are properly licensed, getting the education that they need, and so forth. So that one small weekend then kind of lit a fire under me. And then I started looking at volunteer opportunities through the FSBPT. And so that's how I ended up applying for the Ethics and Legislation Committee. So I worked with them for 3 years on some pretty big projects.
I bet you did. Yeah.
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 But they're
No,
a really great organization to work with, and a lot of great resources for students, I think is.
through FSBPT.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
everything that has to do with the MPTE, with licensure, all of those sorts of things, that's all FSBPT, and they have really great resources for
They
students
do.
to use.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. I'm always, I work with students on a regular
Mhm.
basis. I get to talk to them about how to apply for their FSBPT or for their NPTE and how to get their accounts and all of that kind of stuff. So I have deeply went through FSBPT's website, and I am always thoroughly impressed with how much information's on there. So I'm continuously telling students, I'm like, go onto their website, go check things out. There's videos, there's descriptions, there's PDFs, there's all kinds of stuff on there if you just take the time to go through and look at it. So I agree. Well done, FSBPT.
The videos that's a newer thing that we've started doing. So those are fun because people are more likely to watch a 1 to 2 minute video blurb to learn how to do something than read an email or a handout. So I
Mhm.
think it really catches audiences a bit more.
I am more willing to watch a video than I am to read a PDF. I'm sitting here, I'll read a
Right.
PDF and I'll be like, I still don't know what I'm doing, but I watch a video yeah. So hey, everybody has a different way of learning, right?
Exactly.
So there was a couple of things that you said, and I'm going to take us back here. I'm going to rewind us a little bit
Okay.
here. You mentioned the half vote, which I think is gone in almost every state. Is it gone in Minnesota?
Yes.
The half vote for PTAs?
Hmm.
Yes.
Hmm.
I thought it was gone from just about every state. So again, I might get fact checked on this kind of stuff. So I have no idea how many states are still left, but I think there might be one or two.
Okay.
So that change is coming around.
Hmm.
We now have two PTAs that are delegates in the House of Delegates that vote on behalf of the PTA Council. So big improvements there. We now have the ability for a PTA to sit as a delegate in their state.
Hmm.
That's new. And then we also now have the ability to have a PTA sit on a PTA's board of directors, and that is huge. So we have made huge strides as PTAs in the last 15 to 20 years.
Hmm.
There was a
So even
time where, go ahead.
I'd say even the last 10 years is when I
Yeah.
saw
Well,
more
with,
things have changed in the past 10
yeah,
years.
in
Yeah.
the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Like most of the things that I named were just in the last,
Right. Yeah.
2 to 3 years. So yeah, I mean, there are definitely changes coming. What I like about the conversation that you and I are having, though, is that you're also bringing in the other aspect of this. So yes, I talk a lot about excuse me, a lot about association work on this podcast because I am very involved in our association.
Hmm.
But FSBPT offers a lot of opportunity for PTAs to serve and to lead.
Hmm. They do.
We'll talk about item writing, all kinds of stuff. So there's definitely a space for PTAs there in licensure and whatnot. But back to the whole, you said about the half a vote, and then you said I wanted to look at things and see what we can change. So instead of you looking at this and going, I only have a half a vote, I'm only considered half of a human, right? You said, but like, what if I ask some more questions and there are some things we can change?
Mhm.
Like, so this is what I want people to get out of this conversation is that you saw something that you didn't necessarily agree with. And you said, well, why can't we make changes? Why
Mhm.
aren't there ways that we can progress? Why aren't there ways that I can serve or do something different? Right. So
Mhm.
you took that step. And that's what I'm always encouraging PTAs to do on this show is that if you see something, just ask the question and see where you can take that. And then you said that you were surrounded by people who were passionate, and
Mhm.
that's what drove you. I would say the same thing is very similar to me in the ways that I kind of started to get connected to some of the PTA leaders nationally and in my state. Was I saw other PTAs serving in ways that I thought was very well done.
Mhm. Has something that they're passionate about. Um, and there's typically something that you can do with and for that passion as well. And I think that I'm seeing more and more PTAs in general really step up in terms of what we want for our profession. And I really like to see that. Like when I started with ethics and legislative committee for FSBPT, that's a big sentence of words. I was the first PTA to serve on that committee. And I was like, whoa, this is really neat, but we need more. So then the next year, the year after, they did bring on another PTA as well. And I think it just it's, we have perspective from what we do as clinicians, and that perspective should be heard. So that was my opportunity to share with this committee of wonderful colleagues from around the country. And they were very accepting of that and, listened to all my ideas. And even if they got shut down, I just kept trying, or I would word it differently and just say, well, why? Why not? All the time.
There has been multiple times where I have been, or I know other PTAs who have been in the position of being the only PTA on a specific board or committee, but the voice has always wanted. Like the committees that I have served on, that I've been the only PTA, my voice was looked at as a valuable piece of
Mhm.
information, and I always felt like I was very welcome there. So it's kind of cool when you get to serve in an opportunity like that, where you know that you were able to kind of put your fingerprints on that specific project or task.
And I love seeing more PTAs at the FSBPT annual conference. I think one of the first ones I went to, there might have been like, I don't know, 3 or 4 of us that stood up, and that now it's growing. So I like to see that as well, that more people, more PTAs are getting involved.
Mhm. Yeah, lots of opportunity there. So I would
Mhm.
say to anybody listening who is potentially interested in learning more about that FSBPT side, the licensure board side, definitely kind of keep your eye on FSBPT's website because there's going to be a lot of opportunities, I think, for PTAs to get involved in that realm.
And people can always reach out to me with questions too. I'm more than willing to help people out in terms of if they have questions about like, hey, how should I go about doing this, or what avenue would be the best way to go in terms of that. So um, when you post the show, maybe we can just put a little blurb with my contact information so people do have that resource.
Absolutely. We can make sure we drop that in the show notes. I think that if anybody wants to learn a little bit more, you might be able to kind of shed some light on what exactly that looks like. I
Mhm.
think a lot of people who are getting ready. And my next question for you anyways was going to be kind of about this direction anyway. So we'll just go ahead and switch over to that. You've built a lot of deep clinical expertise and you've stepped into these leadership roles outside of the clinic. But when was it that you realized that these opportunities were available? Like, did someone come to you and say, "Hey, Sara, guess what?" Or, I mean, did you literally just go and do a deep dive on the internet?
So I'm going to back up just a titch and use a different example than the board to start.
Okay, sure.
So when I was a student, my clinical instructor was an ART certified provider, so active release techniques. So it's another tool in our toolkit in terms of, we're working on muscle, ligament, tendon, nerve, right? We are trying to improve tissue mobility, improve function, decrease pain, improve range of motion, those sorts of things. And I saw her practice this when I was a student. And that was one of the first goals that I had as a student is I would like to go take these courses. What she is doing is amazing. She is really helping people improve their quality of day-to-day tasks, their quality of being able to stay in athletics and so forth. So I knew that I wanted to practice a little bit before I did that. So it was probably maybe 5 or 6 years before I actually started like looking at attaining that goal. But that was probably the first, I guess, thing that was given to me in terms of like, hey, this is something that you can do as a clinician. And I've taken now the past, 5 or 6 years to develop those skills. I'm taking higher level courses with ART. I'm an elite provider in the Twin Cities area. And I really love what I do with that. In terms of the board, I just started looking stuff up because I really didn't know like
Mhm.
how does a clinician PTA or PT, like how do you get involved in something like this? So yeah, I was using the Google, right? Because I
Mhm.
didn't really know where to go. But I did remember it's like, oh, I went through the licensure process with the Minnesota State Board. So, going to their website and kind of seeing like, hey, do they have any opportunities or any openings that I can look into? And so there happened to be a PTA position open for the board when I was looking, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to apply. I'm going to see what happens, right?
What the heck, huh?
Yeah, what the heck? So that's how I initially got involved in the board. No one told me about it. I didn't really know anything about it, but all I knew is that I wanted to do the most that I could for our profession, just for physical therapy as a whole.
Yeah. Not every, opportunity that comes is from someone else. I think that it happens that way a lot,
Mhm.
that we're connected through other people, but I love your very organic approach of just Googling it.
Right?
Find it.
Sometimes
Google
that's the
it,
only
find
option,
it, fix it, right?
right? Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, so that's how I did got involved in the board, and then the FSBPT came from the board, and then the other thing that I am super passionate about is helping students. So I'm a certified clinical instructor, and so I usually take one PTA student each year. And that also took me a while to feel comfortable as a clinician having a student. So I didn't have a student for probably the first 4 years that I practiced because I wanted to establish myself as a clinician and be confident in what I'm doing. When I was a student, I had great clinical rotations, and they were all with physical therapists, which is great. But at that point, I didn't really understand my role all that much either, other than my licensing rules. So that was my other goal was I want to create really great experiences for PTAs. I want to show them that this is what your role is, right? This is how you fit into clinic. Um, I push my students pretty hard because I want them to learn. I want them to learn outside of all of their book knowledge, right? So that was that's probably one of my favorite ways to give back, is working with students. I love seeing them grow. I love seeing them learn. And just being a part of that is something that's really special for me. And I usually have to turn away students some years. I'm I'm requested. I'm specifically requested by programs
Wow.
and by students. Students
Yeah.
will name drop that they would like to work with me at Twin Cities Orthopedics, and I'm honored. I'm honored that
Hmm.
they say those things, because it's really important. It's really important to me in our profession that we have really great people that are coming down the
Hmm.
line, because it's the future of everything
Hmm.
that's coming. That's super important.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as a clinical educator myself, someone who works with students every day, my role is to place students in a clinical experience. I
Mhm.
can say that it's great when you know that you have a solid group of clinical instructors who are always ready to go, who are always ready to take a student, who are always ready to mold the next group of students coming through. You really try to protect that specific group, and it's not that you don't welcome new CIs into that kind of space and things like that, but you kind of build this network of people that you can depend on. And then you have other clinics that are maybe not able to be as consistent, and that's fine. Like that happens. I would never hold that against a clinic by any means, but when you have that group, it's very nice, and those people tend to give back in other ways. Like sometimes they become advisory board members, sometimes they
Mhm.
are candidates for other roles, but you build that relationship up, and so I can totally understand why programs would request you or students would request you, especially if you've had the opportunity to work with students who were challenging one way or the other. So
Mhm.
a lot of times people say or think that a challenging student is a student that was a bad student. That's not true.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can have a challenging student who's really good, who's like well beyond where they should be right now. And
Mhm.
it's challenging to sometimes push them and to show them new things and to get them the opportunities that they need to kind of feed their brain.
Mhm.
So challenging doesn't necessarily mean that a student is not doing well.
Correct.
Mhm. And you would know this because
Yeah.
you've had a lot of students.
A wide variety.
A wide variety, right?
Wide variety, right? Everyone learns differently. Everyone brings something else and something different to the table. I learn from my students. I always make sure to talk to them about that because that's really important. It's important to establish a good relationship with your student, make sure that they're getting everything that they need to out of their clinical rotation. If they're not, I always want to know because I want them to have the best possible experience that they can have. And then what I expect from them in return is I want each patient to have the best possible experience that they can have as well. That's really important.
Love to hear it. So, for listeners who are listening to this conversation and they're going, man, boards, legislation, ethics, item running, like that just all sounds very, very intimidating. What would you say are first steps to kind of that you might recommend for somebody who is like, yeah, it sounds intimidating, but maybe like what would you say?
I say first just start by having a conversation, right? Talk to your colleagues about things that you're interested in. Do any of them have any interest in doing any of this, or have they done any of these things? Um, we're all very nice and approachable people, right? Like we're more than willing to talk to students or talk to other clinicians to um, help them out in terms of like, hey, these are opportunities that you have. If you have something that you're passionate about, let's go and utilize those skills. Um, I hope that no one feels intimidated by by the board, by the APTA, by the FSBPT, because they're we welcome people with open arms. right? If there are people that are interested in helping out, we want to know about that. So sometimes it's just something as small as shooting an email to the board, or shooting a general email to the FSBPT, right? Someone will get back to you and give you the information that you need. But don't be
Yeah.
intimidated by us.
Mhm. No, they're not scary people at all good people. At least all of the ones that I know, and I feel like I'm like, now that we're having this conversation, like, I feel like I know a lot more PTAs that are working with FSBPT than what I maybe initially thought. So, yeah,
Nice.
like you said, opportunities are growing there. So,
Yeah.
you work with elite athletes. That's hard to say. Elite runners,
Yeah.
and you are an ultra runner, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah,
Am I
yeah.
saying that correct? I
Mhm.
am not an ultra
Yeah.
runner. I am I'm the ultimate somewhat kind of jogger that, like, real slowly down the road. Not an
You're
ultra runner. I
running.
just do
Running is
just do a
running.
little bit, just a little bit. But so
You're
how
still a
does
runner.
being an Thank you. I'll take it. Yeah. How does being an athlete change the way that you practice as a physical therapist assistant? Do you think it makes a difference?
I I don't know if change is the right word to use, but when you have a background in athletics, it helps you, or a background in an injury, it helps you kind of even keel with an athlete that's going through a surgery, or a runner that needs to take time off for a stress fracture or something like that. Um, because that everyone gets like the same, best care that I can give them. And I think in the end, it might just help you relate a little bit better to that population. But then you learn to adapt and relate to other populations that you see as well.
Mhm. Yeah, I think, just hearing about your background as an elite runner yourself, and then, a lot of the things that your life experience, the things that you brought to the table with some of that nursing background and your PR background and things like that, you had this lived experience that you were able to bring over into that. And I think that sometimes that really catapults, student PTAs and fresh, young, early professional PTAs. If you
Mhm.
have some of that life experience that goes with it, it kind of gives you just that little bit of an edge. And that's not to say that somebody who's coming into this fresh out of high school can't do it. By all means, that's not
Mhm.
the case. But it can really develop who you are quicker as a clinician,
Mhm.
because you kind of have an idea of who you are as a human being.
I think it gave me the opportunity to have really good um, clinical practice when I was a student. I got thrown into like higher level, like, oh well, Sarah works in a hospital, so we're gonna put her over here because she can handle it. Like she already knows what's coming at her. So I feel like I got really good experiences because of that, because I was comfortable with that aspect of my life. I had worked with patients before in a different avenue, and so I could take that with me in terms of making that more comfortable for myself, because I already went through the initial, nerves thing,
Hmm.
like everyone
Yeah.
at the beginning. Um, oh, and I am not an elite athlete by any means. I work
Well,
with.
you're more elite than I am. So I have bestowed upon you that name,
I
that
just
title.
really love running, and I'm really competitive on the trail.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll take it.
Okay.
So now you were featured in a really cool article from Paradis Sports. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Am I
Parody.
saying it right? Parody.
Parody. Hmm.
So it's a base layer company, and it's all women, right?
Hmm.
It's
All women.
all women's company.
Yeah.
So I found it to be really cool because it's not often that you see, um, an ultra trail runner, physical therapist assistant, community builder is what they described you as in this
Yeah.
article. So, I think it's fun. If I have your permission, we'll share it with the audience, in the show notes. But it's a really cool article, and it just kind of describes about who you are, and, what you do and what you love. And I think that it's great that they took the time to shine a spotlight on you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was very nice.
Yeah, fun opportunity. So well
Yeah.
done there.
Yes.
So if you have a PTA who you're noticing is passionate, like you're like, okay, this person, they got something, they got a little bit of passion, they're ready to rock and roll, but they're not sure where they fit. Is it leadership? Is it getting into education? Is it advocacy or wherever they are going to find themselves? But like,
Mhm.
what kind of questions do you think that they should ask themselves now when they have that passion kind of burning?
I think just first making a list of what those things are, like how they describe themselves, um, what types of roles they see themselves in is helpful. Um, do they have any experience in any of these things, or is this just brand new and this is something that you're super interested in and maybe don't know how to do that? Um, and then ask yourself also what kind of time do you have to put in it as well in
Hmm.
terms of that, because that's like all of the things that I'm involved in and trying to balance it all. Sometimes it's really
Hmm.
a lot, especially if you're traveling for conferences or speaking at a conference or those sorts of things, which I love doing them all. But then sometimes I find that now I haven't been home for like 3 months.
Hmm.
um, so just be willing to have the time to commit to
Hmm.
it as well.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes that's one of the first questions that people ask is, how much time is this going to take,
Yes.
whatever this role is? But I like how you described that. And I didn't get a chance to write all of them down. I tried to. But you kind of said, write down things like, how would you describe yourself? And what are things that you like to do? What are ways that you can kind of get yourself close to whatever that passion is? And I think that these are very similar to like seeking a new job too.
Hmm.
You know, what is it about you that you're good at? What is it about yourself that you like to do? And then asking yourself, is this something I can actually get paid to do? Because it doesn't always fit the mold. Sometimes we step outside of those boundaries and we're that non-linear career path, PT or
Yeah.
PTA, right?
Hmm.
So if you can kind of jot these things down and learn about yourself and see where you belong, then you can have those opportunities kind of just fall into your lap sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes,
Or you can Google them.
right. Or you can Google them. Yeah. Sometimes you just make like a flow chart or something. I do that with a bunch of my students just for clinical decision making skills. I was like, all right,
Absolutely.
here's the problem. Here are the avenues that you can take. Now I want you to write those down, right? Like, what path are you going to take if the patient presents this way? What path are you going to take if the patient presents differently? What are you going to do if there's a change in status with that patient? And it just kind of helps them process the whole,
Mhm.
um, like reading the PT evaluation. What information do I need to take from that? Because it's a lot of information that they're getting all at once, and then just putting them into small bubbles and saying like, hey, these are the things that we would like to work on. These are the goals that we want to meet today. And I think you can do that in a lot of ways in your life to simplify it, if I may say that.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes it a little more black and white. It makes a big problem seem simpler because there's the steps, right?
Right. And even though the steps are black and white, that doesn't mean the the way you get there is black and white.
Mhm. Yeah. And this, my friends, is why she gets requested by name as the clinical instructor because of the things that you're doing with your students. It's incredible. I'm
Thanks.
glad that you take the time to do that with them. That's important.
It's important they understand what they're learning, and it's
Mhm.
important that I understand how they're doing it.
Mhm. Yeah, how'd they get to the answer, right? You
Mhm.
gotta show your math, just like
Right?
the old
I do
math
not
problems.
There will be no math problems when you work with me. Guaranteed.
Show your work. There you go, just not your math. Show your work, not your math. Okay, are you ready for a quick game? It's called Clinic or Beyond.
Okay.
Okay,
Let's go.
so I'm gonna give you a topic or a role or an activity, and you're gonna tell me, is this a clinic? Is this something beyond the clinic, or can it be both? And then you can kind of explain why, but it doesn't have to be a big explanation, okay? Because we're
Okay.
going to be, it's kind of like speed rounds, all right?
Okay.
Okay, are you ready? First
I'm,
one, writing and PTE exam questions. Clinic, beyond, or both?
so it's a little bit of both. But mostly beyond, right? So like, I think that the way that the MPT is being restructured and the way that students study for that exam, that does end up a little bit more on the educator side than the clinic side.
Mhm.
But from the clinic side, now we're talking about clinical scenarios, right? So now you're working through live clinic scenarios, which are going to be applicable to what you would be tested on. So I think it's a little, I think there's both sides.
Okay, we'll take it. Next, are you ready?
Yeah.
Coaching endurance athletes.
Are we asking if that's for in clinic or out of
Yeah,
clinic? Both?
clinic, beyond, or both?
Well, so coaching endurance athletes is a completely separate category than physical therapy. And I think, I do think that patients sometimes get confused.
Mhm.
Um, I'm I'm not coaching or writing them a training plan
Mhm.
for their marathon, but if sometimes they look at us as a coach in terms of, well, they're going to introduce me to running again and get me started, right?
Mhm.
So we're
Yeah.
involved in that process and then making sure that everything lines up before we get to that point, and we can do that. So I do think they're more separate than not.
Okay. I like it. Good. Serving on a licensure board.
Well, probably a little bit of both. But most clinicians don't really look at licensing once they are initially licensed, right?
Mhm.
Then in Minnesota, we renew our license every year, our
Mhm.
CEs every 2 years, right? So that's when it comes into clinic, I guess, is at the beginning, and then when you're renewing your license. But um, outside of that, there's not too much involvement. Once you have your appropriate license, then that's kind of it in clinic.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess there could be an argument that it should be more often, right? Like there should be a way for you to kind of live inside that licensing aspect and the laws and rules a little more frequently than what we do. But I agree with you. I feel like sometimes we're kind of like at the last minute, like, oh, I have to hurry up and renew, or did I get all my CEUs or something like
Right.
that? When maybe if we lived in that space a little bit more, it might look a little different.
Because on the licensure side, it's our little licensure committee, right? Things come
Hmm.
to our committee for approval and those sorts of things that would not be discussed outside of our committee, right?
Hmm.
So there's that part that's completely separate.
Okay, next. I like this one. Ethics committee work.
Well, ethics should just be flat out everything, right?
Thank
Ethical
you.
practice is
Thank
flat
you.
out
I'm
everything.
so glad that you said that.
Um, but I know that the FSBPT, um, they're going to be, well, no, sorry, APTA put out a new document for the ethics of the physical therapist and physical therapist assistant. They've been
Hmm.
separate for years,
Hmm.
and now they are,
January 1st.
as of yesterday, it is
Yeah.
one document. Okay, which
Yes.
is pretty exciting. Um, so I think that's, side note, huge step for our
Yeah.
profession as a
So
whole,
we can
that
add
we're
that into that list of things that
into
we
that
talked
into
about
that
earlier.
because that just happened.
Hmm.
Um, but uh, but the FSBPT is going to be working on, like, how can we educate the states about this and that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, that's just a whole thing. Not every state has a jurisprudence exam, which kind of falls into that ethical practice as well. Minnesota has one as of a few years ago. I don't know if Ohio has a jurisprudence exam.
We do. Yeah. The JM.
Yeah. So I think ethics is everywhere. And we have a 2-hour ethical CE requirement in Minnesota
Mm-hmm.
as part of our CEs as well.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Another thing we should probably live in a little more frequently, right? Than what we
Yes.
do. Instead
Yes.
of waiting until we have an ethical dilemma,
Right.
maybe we could spend a little more time addressing or maybe preventing it before it gets to that point. So,
Just that
all
the
right.
piece.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're going to move on to our plus point. This is your moment to, stand on any kind of soapbox that you want here. If you could speak directly to a PTA who feels stuck or invisible in their role, what would you tell them about what is actually possible?
Are you asking from the point of like a clinician, or are you
I'm,
asking like from the point of the APTA?
I'm asking
Yes.
from the point of Sara Conrad.
Oh, from the point of Sarah.
Yeah,
If there's something that the APTA could work on or change,
sure.
um, I don't know if I want to get on my soapbox about some of them.
Okay.
um, let's see. Well, I mean, I think there are pretty big strides in terms of um, the ethics document. That was pretty big in terms
Yeah.
of we're DPTs, PTAs, we're all clinicians. We are all held to really high ethical standards, and that should just be straight across the board, no matter what your letters are. So I think that was a big thing. Um, like our Minnesota APTA, they do great things. We're we're still in the process of trying to um, oh, why am I forgetting the name of it? Um, I'm gonna blank. You probably have to edit this out.
That's okay. That's okay. We'll
um,
just let it roll while
yeah,
you're thinking about it.
just
I do
let it
think that
roll.
it's
I'm
important.
thinking about it.
I think it's
But
important though that everybody recognizes the new ethics document. That's huge. Um, excuse me. Because like you said, we treat side by side and we
we'll let it go. Yeah, legislative changes, right? So they're the ones that are standing up for our profession at the state level. And then that comes uh, down to even thinking about like PT compact. Like all the states around Minnesota have a PT compact. We don't have one. Like it would be great if we could have that get through the House, but there are other reasons that that's not going through. So like I don't know. I feel like the APTA does a really great job of representing our profession. And then just with the leadership roles that are becoming more available, the PTAs within the organization are really fantastic as well. So I don't know if I really need to um, like stand on a soapbox, but our local chapter does really good work. And everyone that I've met at the national level, like the committees that I work on for the FSBPT, we usually have a visitor from the APTA working with us as well, and they all do such good work. So I'm proud that we have a really great association to work with, which is probably not what I was expected to say.
no, no, hey, it is your moment to shine. You can say whatever it is that you want to say. So I think that it was wonderful. And I agree with everything you said. We've made big strides, and it's really great to see the PTAs who are stepping forward to do the kind of work like you are doing. So with that, Sara, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, you're welcome. This was fun. Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course.
And hopefully it encourages more people to get involved outside of their clinic setting.
Thanks for listening to PTA Plus, the podcast for PTAs by PTAs. Subscribe, follow us on social, and share the show. Elevate yourself. This show is for educational purposes only. No clinical decision-making should be made from its content. See you next time.